The manhwa begins with a lady with golden hair gracefully stepping into the hall. Her aura immediately commands stares from everyone present, and soon they begin whispering under their breaths, asking if she isn't after all the princess of the Zelda Empire, the princess who leashed the tyrant. Soon, a man with white hair walks up to her and offers a simple bow while she thanks him. She, Princess Lottie's Aldwin of the Zelda Empire. She continues with her walk and the same happens with the rumors. The rumors say she's a terrifying villainess, but she's so elegant and beautiful. To her the entire moment felt surreal. To think that she would one day attend such an international gathering as the representative of the empire. The Zelda Empire boasts the greatest prosperity on the continent of Elred. It is a nation known as the Land of the Gods. As the daughter of the Emperor Magnus' first wife, after her mother's death, she was ruled by the Emperor's violent hand. The healing powers she inherited from her mother, she was forced to use them for the Emperor alone. She was deemed as someone with a barbarian blood and unworthy of appearing outside. The least she could do according to them was try to be useful to them. As a result, her stepmother and half-siblings abandoned their duties as royals and forced all their administrative work onto her. Their policies she drafted were praised and they took credit for it shamelessly. The credit for all the work she desperately completed was stolen by them day after day. And as for her half-sister, her fiancé was stolen right before their wedding and she missed her chance to marry. She was mocked as the past her prime decoration princess and looked down on by everyone. But now Suddenly, the air shifts. He, the one who conquered the entire Zelda kingdom through slaughter. A plunderer with neither blood nor tears. The tyrant Diavel Ray Ataraxia. Did she really put a leash on that terrifying man? He scans the venue, and when she notices this she assures him the security at that venue is the best in the world so he doesn't have to be so on guard. She softly places a hand on his cheek as she passed the final words of reassurance. No one is going to harm us, so please relax. Okay? He agrees, gently rubbing his head in her palm only to suddenly break the silence with a, but. He jerks her forward into his arms, leaving the onlookers in awe and then with a whisper retorts that there's no harm in being careful. In crowded places, you will stay by my side. But their good moments don't last long. Another man appears, this time from the Lusitanian Empire. He was the crown prince of the Lestanian Empire Zephyus for Craig. He announces that she'll be the one who will become his empress, advising the tyrant not to touch her so freely. After that he takes her hand and places a gentle kiss on the back of her palm as he compliments her. The people were even more stunned. She was being courted by the crown prince of the Lestanian Empire too? Suddenly, Diavel snatches her hand and pulls her to his chest. They locked each other in a silent stare-off, exchanging death flares until her voice came through, pleading with both of them to stop. They agree in an instant, leaving everyone else present in shock that their whispers fill the room. Even the crown prince of Lusitania is obeying her just like that? Depending on who she marries, the balance of power in this world could be completely withdrawn in an instant. For the future of the Zelda Empire and for her previous people, she knows she must figure out the best path forward, but their hand. In this state. Can I really choose the right path? Zelda Empire Founding Festival. The Emperor of the Zelda Empire, Magnus Aldwin. The Empress. The first and second princes. Second Princess Lisa. Compared to them, first Princess Lottie's Aldwin. Born to a mother from the minority people, the former empress, she is oppressed by her family and looked down on by the citizens. She was forced to wear shabby clothes, but she mustn't let her spirit break. At least, she must preserve the dignity of a princess. Her father, who relentlessly pursued expansion, couldn't see the fact that clearly people were suffering because of the wars. Deep down she wanted to do something to help them, but as the ornamental princess there's nothing she can do. Once a young child hoping to see her was brutally shoved aside by a knight, but before he could harm them any further, the captain of the royal guard, Meldic Elias, appeared, stopping him. He went to the child with an outstretched arm as he gently asked what business she had with the princess. She confessed that she had something she wished to give to the princess, and the princess, upon noticing her, recognized her to be one of the kids she met at the orphanage during volunteer work. Noticing the speech was over, she thought it'll be okay to step out of the carriage and greet the little kids. The captain of the royal guard helped her out, however she didn't notice her stepsister's malicious glare behind her. She went to the kids and asked what was wrong, and they pointed out that among the royals she was the only one without a tiara, so they made her a crown of flowers. Her eyes welled up as she thanked them. Just as she praised them for their hard work, she felt someone suddenly jab her at the back. The flower crown flew out of her hand, and just as she reached out to retrieve it, she felt something hard crush her hand. And the words she heard next were, "Oh sister, what were you thinking? Someone of your lowly blood, feeding gutter rats again, don't lower the dignity of the Imperial family any further." However, she didn't expect the kids to grab her, warning her not to bully the princess. Just in time she noticed her brother in the distance and asked for help. "This filthy gutter rat clings to my leg and won't let go." Her brother glared at them, muttered under his breath about them being an eyesore, and without hesitation pulled his sword, annoyed that the special parade was ruined by those gutter rats. But just as he was about to strike, a sudden voice came commanding him to stop. He opened his eyes and met her holding the child in her arms. Annoyed, he simply kicked her to the side, ordering her not to get in the way, but she didn't let go no matter what. She checked to see if he was all right, and once he called her name, a soft smile appeared on her lips, only for her stepsister to suddenly appear behind her with a question. "You wouldn't be thinking of breaking your promise to father now, would you?" Just then the emperor appeared, demanding to know what was happening during the sacred parade. Her stepsister without hesitation responded, saying she was about to disobey his orders. He didn't need to hear any more words. He kicked her down, calling her a fool. She spat coughed up blood, but he didn't care. He simply grabbed her by her hair and scowled. "I told you repeatedly and strictly to be, no one must ever know you, yet it seems that simply telling you is not enough." He gave a strict order for the kids to be killed and forced her to watch carefully, ignoring all her pleas for them to be spared. Inside her was a mess. She wondered what to do, because of her again. Her father always warned her never to use her powers without his permission. Because she used her powers that day, the wet nurse was punished and killed. She cried desperately, apologizing to her, Anna. She swore she'd never let something like that happen again, but now. The emperor ordered every single one of them to be killed, but a voice suddenly interrupted, noting that if they were to delay any longer, the start time of the celebratory feast would be delayed. He hissed, and the Talatis he warned that he'd make sure she never acts on her own again. He promised to make sure to hurt her thoroughly so she'd remember. Later, as she struggled to get to the banquet hall, the thought of the children's safety crossed her mind and relief filled her heart. Although the flower crown was broken, a resolve sparked in her mind. She'll take everything up to the attic in full paper cranes, she'll press the flowers into a bookmark, and when the bookmarks are finished she'll bring them sweets as a thank you to the kids. The thought of them calling her name happily was enough to bring a smile to her face. However, her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden scream. Her smile faded immediately, replaced by horror. A scream? She'd pondered. She'd definitely heard a scream just now from the banquet hall. She kept the rest of the flower crown in her purse and hurried to the hall. However, she noticed something strange on her way. It was so quiet, nobody was there, not even the royal guards who were posted at the entrance. She pushed open the door of the banquet hall and immediately stumbled upon something. She fell to the ground, her hand feeling something warm, but when she checked her hands to see, she realized they were covered in blood. And once she raised her head, she found the bodies of different knights on the floor. Color drained from her face. She noticed her sister, her stepmother, and step-siblings too. She raised a hand over her mouth, trembling, wondering how that could have happened when the captain of the Royal Knight called out to her. She hurried to him. She placed a hand firmly on his armor, ready to heal him, but she stopped. With his last breath he noted that she must live, she mustn't die. In panic, she placed her hand on his armor and began healing him. The next time he opened his eyes he felt the pain reducing and the wounds closing, however they didn't have time to chit-chat. He hurriedly warned her to get out, explaining that it was a military invasion and all of their royal guards had been completely subdued. Just as she wondered who it could have been, to completely subdue the Empire's strongest swordsman just like that, she heard a noise from above. An unknown man approached her father, his piercing red eyes burning with vengeance as he raised his sword to strike. The sight terrified her to the core, for the Emperor of Zeldia, the greatest nation of the continent of Elred, to kneel before a boy about the same age of a new recruit. Then his piercing red gaze met hers. She took a few steps backward in fear, and her father, on noticing her, immediately announced that it's her. He assured him she can solve whatever problems he's struggling with, urging Lotties to come to him. The captain of the royal guards tried to stop her, but the pain in his arm made it impossible for him. A man with brown hair, recalling how she'd healed him, calls out to his lord. He walks up to him and reports something unclear that clearly piques his interest, then without delay he slashes the king. He simply retorts that he'll check if what he said is true, asking him to stay there quietly, then without any warning strides to Lottie's. Once he reaches her, he grabs her by her neck and with a roar, orders her to come with him. As he pulled her away, she couldn't help question in her mind just what he intended to do with her. Inside, he threw her to the ground. Tears settled at the corner of her eyes as she turned to look at him. The stuffing scent of blood, even though he's covered head to toe in splattered blood, looking horrifying. Even though the parts of his skin not stained with blood are startlingly pale. And his gaze is so sharp that it's almost frightening. His eyes are such a clear color that you feel like you could be drawn right into them. It's the first time I've ever seen a boy with such a beautiful face. The sound of his sword scraping along the floor quickly pulled her out of her thoughts. He took off all his armor in an instant, and before she could even process anything he lunged at her, again gripping her neck. He pinned her to the ground and his voice came, commanding as he ordered her not to move, seconds before he drove a blade into the ground beside her. He took off his shirt, revealing some purplish kind of scars, and when her eyes landed on it, she knew it too well. The dark bluish bruise covering the area around the wound. It was an incurable wound. That incident reminded her of the past. Screams filled the room. Her nanny held her in her arms to shield her from the horror happening. The Emperor, completely feral, asked her to witness the amazing power. He told her she also had the ability to create that cursed sword. Her nanny stepped forward to defend her, saying she didn't have that kind of power, and the Emperor, upset, kicked her away, claiming she was merely just a nanny. She tried to go to her nanny, but a strong hand grabbed her leg, and when she turned around, she saw a man begging to be killed off. To have made a young sturdy soldier suffer so greatly with a single stab, a wound so horrific it made them cry and beg to be killed off. And yet, he was able to remain sane in such a state. Just how strong could his endurance be? She wondered if he was simply desperately enduring the pain when his voice suddenly came, asking her to heal him. If she can't, he'll take her life. She asked for his permission first, to touch him, and he simply shrugged off her carefulness, saying she didn't have to ask for permission for everything. Her gaze shifted to the wound. If really it was an incurable wound, she might not be able to fully heal it with her power. But regardless, she tried. She gave it her all, and he occasionally let out screams of agony, but through it all, his gaze lingered on her, and that was when a sudden realization came in. His heart pounded violently. Finally, he'd found her. Instinctively he grabbed her by her shoulder and threw her onto the bed. She stared at him cluelessly while he stared back at her with intent as he noted something in his heart. This woman, I absolutely won't let her get away. He regained his senses and immediately got off of her. However, before she could even process what had just happened, she felt the room tilt and spin around her before finally collapsing, but he caught her just in time before she hit the floor. She apologized and offered a simple explanation that there was a limit to her powers. He agreed to end that session, but not without reminding her once again. As long as she is useful, he will let her live, but if she defies him, he will kill her on the spot. She sat on the bed weakly wondering what would happen. If a man like that really gained control, then what would become of her country? The only one who can stop him now is me. Then, she turned to him and made a promise to prove herself if he could guarantee the safety of the citizens. However, his mood suddenly shifted. Safety? Because of your father, do you have any idea how many lives were taken? During his outburst, she quickly spit something, the healed wounds as if responding to his emotions they glowed darker again. He barked that she was equally guilty, enjoying a life of luxury nourished by the countless lives that her father trampled upon. He asked her to stop playing the victim, but what was even worse than the accusations was her silent agreement with every one of his words. Even though she witnessed her father's tyranny countless times, she, who should be acting as the princess, was powerless. She tried to tell her father, but she could only tremble in fear, unable to do anything. But she truly wanted to protect them. And Anna too, she never wanted to lose anyone. She doesn't want to just stand by and watch as other people get hurt anymore. This time, for sure, she will protect them. She suddenly brought his wound and explained that simply healing it wouldn't make it any better, but the hand curse holds the key to unraveling the curse manifested in his wound. Then she proposed an offer. If he promises not to hurt anyone anymore, then she will cooperate in the breaking of the curse. She braces herself, awaiting his response, and what she got was a simple remark. "You're trying to propose a negotiation with me under these circumstances, what an interesting woman." Minutes later he stepped out of the room grabbing her by her arm. The king spoke first, asking if he hadn't found her useful and to release him immediately, but what he got was a quick and precise swing at his neck. Then holding her in his hand, the former emperor's head in the other, stepped out onto the balcony. A man went first. He announced they will inherit the land, and from that day forward their master, Diavel Ray, Ataraxia, will ignite a new imperial light on the land. Diavel didn't mind the whispers, he simply stepped forward. Then, he grabbed the princess by her arm, kicked the emperor's seat out of the way. He announced that he had no intention of wiping out the royal bloodline of that country. He declared right after that he will be taking the princess as his wife, and the next emperor after him will be her child and his. She could only look at him stunned, his words echoing in her mind. She was marrying this strange man? The people wondered aloud what the kid planned to do to the country, what will become of them, the people of the empire. But another person spoke from a different perspective. Isn't he better than the reign of terror that dictator brought? But Lavissa's thoughts were different. Until now, she wouldn't have imagined someone proposing with such murderous intent in their eyes. So, just what was he thinking? They went back inside, and upon noticing the commander of the royal army conscious, a smile appeared on her face. He called her name instinctively. However, before he could even form a sentence, he noticed the cold look on the foreigner's face and his jaw clenched in anger. He couldn't just watch them leave with the princess, he'd cut himself loose minutes ago. He turned around and reached for a sword, then without wasting time attacked. He broke out in sweats as he thought of the princess, promising to save her, even if it meant sacrificing his life for it. Just like that, their swords clashed. For a person who was injured, his moves were surprisingly strong. She begged for them to stop, and they did. One of Diavel's men, taking advantage of his distraction, tried to sneak an attack. However, his response was sharp. Then she reminded him to uphold his promise not to hurt the citizens. Sir Elias's attention immediately shifted to her. Being oppressed by the Aldwin family, Lady Lottie's was looked down on by the people, calling her a placeholder princess, and for her to protect the citizens, she made negotiations with the invaders? Diavel agreed with her. However, he pointed out that Elias was a member of the Imperial army. She stood to the side, filled with anxiety. Although he was called the Empire's greatest swordsman, in his wounded state and with so many people around to attack him, it'll be impossible for him to win. She wondered what she should do, and then she got an idea. In a hurry, she blurted out that if he ever tried to hurt him, she wouldn't marry him anymore. The whole room exploded in shock. He was so shocked he didn't notice someone creeping up behind him until he finally had his arm around his neck. She screamed for Sir Elias, and Diavel's voice came the next instant ordering everyone to stop moving. Then he gently walked up to her and, contrary to her expectations, responded with a simple, "All right." She was shocked, but he just pointed out that he was obeying her word. His companions all gasped in shock. For Lord Diavel to obey someone that easily, to think that she would be able to move the heart of the person who hates the Empire more than anyone else. This lady, she isn't just an ordinary person. On her end, she was surprised too, that he actually listened to her. He asked why she was so surprised, raising her chin gently, then he remarked, "A husband should listen to what their wife says, right?" She was speechless, but even more, Elias didn't appear to be having it. He let go, then he turned to Elias and ordered for him to be thrown into jail. She called out for him as they took him away, and Diavel simply assured her that he wouldn't be killed. At least for now. Before he was taken away, he made sure to leave her with a few words. He assured her he'll be back soon, asking her to take care of herself. Diavel noticed this and asked how long she planned to keep staring at him. He asked to be shown to her room afterwards, and once they arrived she could only stand restless by the door. She'd taken him to her room just like he asked, but, recalling his words, if he asked her to fulfill her role as a wife, just what was she supposed to do? He strode towards her while she trembled, not knowing what to expect. Before he could speak or do anything, she spoke first. She couldn't hide her nervousness as she thanked him for helping Sir Elias, but then she couldn't help but ask why he'd listened to her. Surprisingly, he just amused before asking if a husband didn't need to grant his wife's wish. He finishes saying his father always said that. Surprised, she blurted out a question asking if he had such amazing parents, and he responded with a simple, "Right." She was stunned. It surprised her, so that guy was able to make such an expression as well? She ponders on how she'd heard about Fairvale being a neutral kingdom that valued peace. So she considers, perhaps that person once lived happily, under the care of gentle living parents. Startling her out of her thoughts, his voice suddenly came, sharp and cold, as he noted that kind of thing didn't matter, as he intended to continue the conversation they had earlier. Without wasting time, he reminds her she'd said she knew the clue to break the curse bound within his wounds. He stepped forward, his piercing red gaze locked onto her as he ordered her to tell him everything she knew. Meanwhile, she simply staggered backward, wondering what she was supposed to tell, as she herself was yet to obtain concrete evidence herself. Noticing her hesitation, he asks why she suddenly went quiet. Then just like that he snapped, demanding to know if surely she hadn't deceived him. She tried to defend herself, but it was already too late. His vision blurred and her voice faded. It was almost like he was having an episode. He warned her to get away from him. His wounds burned and purplish flames surrounded him while she stood by the side in panic, checking to see if he was okay. He simply shut her off, asking if she didn't understand. He asked her to stay away and to not touch him, but she realized the miasma had become much stronger than it used to be. In that moment of agony, memories from his past flooded his mind. His parents, the king and queen of Fairvale, died on their seats while he, the first prince, screamed in pain. The disposed emperor with a grin suggested he try out the power of the cursed sword himself too. But through it all, the man who stood before him, Fairvale's kingdom advisor, the man who was supposed to be his father's most trusted aide. It was at that moment he learned of his betrayal. Resentment burnt within him. He screamed for everyone to be brought back, blaming his betrayal for taking the lives of his father and mother. He punched the ground in anger, his knuckles bled, but he didn't care. Then his gaze fell upon her. She, a woman who carries the blood of an evil god, she will never keep a promise with him. Blinded by vengeance, he swore to take her life that instant, to kill everyone in the Empire without leaving anyone. She reached out for him, trying to stop him, only to be ruthlessly shoved aside, but the more he revealed his anger, the thicker the miasma grew. She jumped in front of him, begging him to hear her out. She promised to give her all in order to break his curse, but he didn't seem convinced at all. Instead of taking that as a cue to back out, a smile appeared on her lips as she reached to embrace, promising never to betray him. Because she is his wife. He warned her to let go, but she didn't listen, she just held on to him. For a moment he seemed stunned by her action until the curse took over again and he tried to push her off. The wounds burned, and even though she was hurting in the process, she didn't let go. Then suddenly she noticed her surroundings had changed. She saw her father and a child that was slashed with the cursed blade, and then she finally understood. She was in his memory. He trained rigorously each time, swearing he'll kill him, he will absolutely kill him, that wicked god. She felt his suffering pouring straight into her. It was so painful it felt like her chest was going to burst, and in the end she collapsed. The next time she woke up, her surroundings had changed again. This time she saw the same child sitting alone. Muttering about not trusting them, urging himself to get stronger, strong enough to overpower everything with force. The darkness grew even thicker when he let his emotions take over. He swore not to forgive them, to take everything back, but soon her face went pale. She saw the punishment he dealt to the people of the Empire and reached out to stop him, explaining that the more he fed the hatred, the stronger the curse grew. Then she understood that minute. What the Empire hurt wasn't just his body. He was left behind on that day living only on hatred, and now she wanted to free him from that. She held him close with silent pleas for him to trust her one more time, thinking there definitely must be something she can do for him. I swear, I'll break your curse. I'll be the one to end the chain of hatred my father created. She opened her eyes and saw he had calmed down. She chuckled softly in relief, mentioning that the darkness had cleared away. She placed a hand on his cheek and gently asked if he was feeling any more pain, if he felt any better. His eyes had just cleared up. He noticed the bothersome dog that clouded his mind was gone. It was strange. Whenever she touched him, he pulled her into a firm embrace without saying a single word. I feel at peace. How do you think the plot might develop? That's all for now, guys. Thank you so much for watching and your support from the start of this journey. I'm really grateful. Also, what kind of genres do you guys like? I'm going on a mission to figure out what kinds of manhwas you guys enjoy best, to ensure I keep you guys